Alright, time for the last Insomniac made game on the PS2 because the PSP spin-offs got ports. It's Gladiator, or as it's called in America, Deadlocked. Doesn't really matter, honestly. The
Is he
bigger
becoming
problem,
Darth Vader?
the biggest problem is that Clank is on Intel. That's the thing, Waves. You know those too edgy for you armors that you get at the end of a game? Ratchet gets
Yeah.
one for the entirety of this. Also,
Okay,
this is our title screen. Christ, this is so miserable.
so
Yeah.
while Ratchet and Clank did not submerge itself into darkness or edginess like a lot of franchises were at the time, that's not to say it was for lack of trying.
This was
Okay,
really challenging. The also first Ratchet and Clank game with a difficulty setting, so first accessibility option, I guess. But this was done primarily to compete with Halo. It was not made a secret, even though they had already Sony had already Killzone made specifically for that purpose.
So, for all you Ratchet and Clank fans who don't remember this game, I can understand if you may have blocked it out of your memories because I'm not sure I'd call it terrible, but it's definitely one of the black sheeps of the franchise, if not the definitive black sheep of the
The
entire
events of
franchise.
this game have been referenced, so it is still canon, which is more than it can be said for the PSP spin-offs at the very least.
This was still
Sure,
made by the
yeah.
same team, so that would make sense.
Which really leads me to wonder what was the thought process, because as you're about to see, audience, Deadlocked is
1 week ago, somewhere in the
weird.
shadow sector. Drova, do you wonder why we are here?
It's one of life's greatest mysteries.
Gotcha. A dramatic conclusion to one of the most exciting episodes of DreadZone I have ever seen. Captain Starshield, the #1 ranked gladiator, has been terminated by Ace Hardlight. Ace has now eliminated a record 13 contestants in the regular season.
What year did this game come out?
I think 2005. Even
Yeah.
else
11
go
now.
about this Starship Phoenix.
What time is it?
Midnight.
And despite the Starship Phoenix having to house only the Galactic Rangers, only Ratchet, Clank, and Al Vigal are the only occupants.
Oh, you mean, right.
What happened? Did all the other ones accidentally eject themselves out of them?
After Nefarious, I'm pretty sure it was a case of, oh, it's not being used, for military purpose, so we can take as lack, but still. And also, yeah, enjoy your cameo of Sasha at the beginning. Game-wise, she kind of disappears, and story-wise, she will be used, resurface in the comics, with her father and the Galactic Rangers.
Anyway, I'm afraid I bring bad news. As you know, Captain Starshield disappeared over a month ago.
At the very least,
Well, if we know, why are you telling us?
At the very least, every major voice actor reprises their role.
Apparently, he was involved with some kind of illegal combat sport, something called DreadZone. We believe it was being
What do
run
you mean
by
Gladiator
Hitman,
Zone?
Gleeman Vox.
No. Okay, so here's the thing. Actually, Deadlocked was the original name, and it's only called Gladiator in Europe and Australia.
I still have to
Everywhere
guess
else.
it's something about... Deadlock doesn't seem to be an innuendo as far as I understand, so I don't really
Not
see...
that I can think of, no.
I guess the only reason why they changed the name was marketability, but I don't really see the point.
Also, is this the remaster done by Idolmasters?
Yes,
it still seems
I don't
awfully
mind.
blurry.
That's because this is a pre-render sequence.
Yep.
Oh, don't worry, Jova. I will have things to say about the quality of this game.
Also,
It's using the in-game graphics, but it's still a pre-rendered cutscene. Go ahead.
also, you mentioned names earlier. Guys, what are you talking about? The game's called Ratchet and Clank 4 Giri Giri Galaxy Giga Battle.
Which is definitely not as cheerful as it may be.
Yeah.
We've captured Subject 209, Mr. Vox.
Excellent. Bring him in.
Yes, sir. We caught 2 strays in the process. Should we
I
take
swear,
them?
this is around that time where you either had Steve Blum or everyone was trying to sound like Steve Blum.
Present time in uncertain location. Glimmerbox, by the way, is also voiced by Michael Bell, obviously doing a different impression than Lawrence.
Hello? Hello in there? Can you hear me? You've been unconscious for hours.
Hey,
probably
you're
a little
awake.
disoriented.
Finally awake now.
How many fingers am I holding up? Whoops. Looks like we've got a feedback loop in the visual matrix processor. Hold still a second. How's that? Okay, now to activate your speech function.
Me out of this thing, you blarg-headed frack monkey! I can barely breathe. My tail feels like it's
I'm gonna
shoved right
kill
up my
Praxis. Oh wait, wrong game.
There seems to be a problem with
But yes, you'll notice Ratchet is also a lot more aggressive in the script as well.
Just see if I wired that
Oh
teleportation.
god, don't tell me he's back to...
Oh, don't worry, Wiz, but trust me, we will have time to discuss things because the cutscenes in this game are relatively little.
Like, a big thankful that this is not Naughty Dog, otherwise they would turn Ratchet into a purple, edgy version of himself.
I
But
would-
yeah,
I
this
would
ain't
still
your-
also argue that the Jack at the very least, despite being edgy, did not talk that much.
Until
least.
2,
Well, no,
which
I'm talking
gave-
about 2, Jova, you know, even then it's
Jack
Daxter, it's Daxter doing most of the diplomacy, basically.
Well, that's the ironic thing. He gets the ability to speak thanks to 2, and he gets more talkative in 3. The problem is, it's because of a horrific, traumatic experience.
No, that's not what I meant. I was answering to what Peter was saying. I go, yes, the dialogue obviously is edgy, but it's not really that much, if I have to be honest, so I think it's more bearable. Anyway,
Fair enough.
the control scheme also has changed, even your HUD. It's all stylized in this very aggressively sterile way. Gone is basically the colorfulness, you know, and the pleasantness of the actual, you know, look that the game is having, and it's structured in this kind of way. And sure, I guess you can make an argument that is to reflect the dire situation our characters are in, because they're basically now prisoner of this gladiatorial combat, which I'll have to say more things about it too. But the thing I can say right now to preface is this. Out of all of the original games, this is actually the glitchiest. You're about to get the example right now. Take a look at Fox's teeth.
Good lord. Maybe it's nostalgia, but I don't remember it being like this in the original
I'll have
version.
to-
Is
What's
this a
wrong with your
remaster?
face?
I might go back. Okay, hold on, I'll please continue.
Basically, what's happening, Jova, is that the model of the upper teeth, you know, is clipping through the actual, you know, flesh mandible, because, you know, for the lip syncing. So as a result,
Okay, let me check if this was in the PS2 version. Go on.
So as a result, it's doing this. Also, as far as I know, no, go ahead and check, but as far as I know, it doesn't seem to be the case. And remember, Jova, this is the most patched version. At launch, it was a disaster, and they tried to port this on the Vita. Needless
So-
to say, it was such a terrible, you know, way that, depending on the situation, they actually offered the game for free as compensation.
Yeah, wow. But yeah, no, I don't recall that glitch in the original version.
Hold
of
on,
the
I'm
game,
checking.
So
Especially because that cutscene was done instead with the in-game engine. This is why it was running at 60 FPS.
I'm looking at the game running on PCSX2. Let's see how it runs here.
But yes, again, basically Gone is also the exploration factor. The weapon upgrading is still a thing, and if anything, it's more aggressive than ever. So at the very least, there is that. But again, this is a game based entirely around arena combats, with some mission variation, obviously. But again, if you played Halo, you know exactly what to expect from this game, which is literally just taking the franchise and, you know, packaging it into a genre that it did not have until this point, basically.
But I'm looking at a modded version that puts that actually does adapt the UI to be properly like in widescreen, like an actual edge of the screen in widescreen, unlike this remaster. Geez.
anyway, though, that's a modded version. I legit do not recall the original version having
Don't worry,
that kind
Joba,
of
we're
visual
about to
glitch.
get the crowning jewel of the game glitches of this version.
Extremely painful shock. Observe.
I hate this
job.
You might notice another thing. The models in a lot of the cutscenes tend to jump cut. If you pay attention, there's a bit of, moment where they just statically change slightly position, constantly. You'll be seeing that. That's still part of the glitching, but I have no idea what it causes that.
Congratulations, Ratchet. You made it through the
Anyway, that's basically Ratchet's life now. He's basically prisoner of these, sensationalist, gladiatorial, live TV, and he has to deal with it. Which puts already a big question mark, on the whole thing to begin with, but I want to wait until a gameplay section to talk about it.
This place is crazy. I've always wondered what it'd be like to be a professional gladiator. I mean, these guys have the life.
Also, pay attention, no subtitles.
Babes.
Try not
Kinda
to forget
regressed.
that we are being held prisoner by a criminal organization.
Also, Clank's eyelids were clipping into his eyes.
Those were a thing also in the original trilogy, so I don't mind it too much. That is had to be more expected at least. But
No. What I mean is, like, they were partially clipping. Like, okay, at least when he clips beforehand, his eyes still look like they maintained the horizontal line, but here, it made them look like they were triangles poking into his eyes.
Anyway, this is basically your central hub. Lovely, I know. Where you can actually check stuff like on the shop and also the rankometer. Basically, this is the current ranking of the gladiators. We're basically at the bottom to get to the up. Ace Hardlight is the guy at the beginning who killed the other guy, the exterminator, just like his other goons. A couple of people are deceased, like Captain Starshield, as mentioned. Also, Agent Zero from Spyro 2 makes a cameo here, I guess.
And yes, the Crash Bandicoot vibes are very apparent with this subworld.
Al, what the fuck?
Ahem.
You're literally listening to racist propaganda. Why would you do that?
Well, you have to understand, it's such a bop.
Of course. Anyway, this will be your generic companion. No, I know that they have proper names, they just say names and they have a bit of a quirky personality, but I so don't care about them.
What do you mean, Tia? They're much cooler than old Clank as Ratchet's companion.
You see, this is the dark and gritty Ratchet and Clank game.
I mean, they still clearly try to put a bit of an emphasis on the comedy, by, like you said, the quirky personality, but you can definitely tell that things are much more oppressive,
Much like Jack 2 was reacting to GTA 3's success, this game was reacting to Halo, like you just said
Now,
earlier.
that being said, though, this game actually did not start as a Halo wannabe. No, what it started as was Insomniac wondering what they could do to, well, advance the series further, since, in their eyes, by the time of the third game, they had more or less perfected the formula.
Seen combat?
Me? Yeah, before I came here, I saw a little action.
Hey, nice digs.
Digs?
I mean, what's all the hardware for?
Seriously, it's very noticeable, the jump cutting, and I don't understand what causes it.
Let me check if this version also has it.
So, what's-his-face figured he'd save a few bolts and make you do it.
It's like I'm watching one of those Gmod videos where the characters have to express themselves in a more puppet-like way.
Again, the embarrassing thing is, if my memory serves me correctly, the PS2 version did not have all these glitches.
You can tell still that the overall this game had a less of a budget than the original trilogy and everything, but not to the point of this being disastrous.
Alright, I have yet to check the jump cuts, but I can tell you that the teeth are fine in the PS2 version. In fact, you can see right there, I just linked it.
But again, don't worry, like I said, we're about to get the crowning jewel that just in this very cutscene we're about to get, with Ratchet's baptism of combat, basically. And yes, you can have also command to your teammates, similar, if you play Kingdom Hearts, something like more, advanced than that.
Alright, I can now help you, Teo. The jump cuts are not on the PS2 version either.
You have a pleasant flight. Sit back, relax, and enjoy our in-flight entertainment, courtesy of the Vox Network.
Something you should know. I'm not a real Tyrannoid. Will you lose your lunch if you have to watch one more reality dating show?
Yeah, this is the weird thing that I keep saying, that I will also keep noticing. As Sasha said, this particular program, you know, for gladiatorial stuff, is both supposedly hiding in a very secret sector that the Galactic Rangers and nobody in the galaxy can find it, but at the same time, it's working kidnapping superheroes and putting them into gladiatorial combat that everyone on TV can see and therefore, you know, trace back to a location. This is not live leak, you know. Like, what the these two things are not really mutually exclusive.
Like, okay, it's a tough sell to suggest that people are paying pay-per-view for this, so let's assume they're trying to get their ratings up. But then that does beg the question, if it's such a public network show, how has no one been able to track where the frequencies are coming from?
Alright, this also serves to introduce, if I recall correctly, the two hosts, Dallas and Juanita. Their jokes are fine for the most part, but Dallas is just unpleasant.
Okay, what is up with the jump cuts?
Oh my god, was Dallas meant to be a Chris Tucker parody back in the day?
Alright, here we go. Get ready.
Okay.
Well, don't bother getting up for drinks, folks. This guy won't last 2 rounds.
Jesus!
Oh,
what the fuck is that?
By the way, this is the most patched version.
So basically, emulate this on PSX too. Got it.
Like, or heck, even just play it on your original PS2. What the hell?
Okay, again, that was actually more fine with how the original trilogy turned out, because again, I still advocate not maybe the best remasters in the world, you know, but I still argue they were solid enough, even with the occasional glitch, you know. This is just garbage. I'm sorry.
I guess
it's still playable and it's still relatively pleasant to look at in gameplay, you know, so better than the Silent Hill collection, I guess. But yes, Lives.
I guess Deck 9, yeah, they were making this. They came across that, but decided rather than fix it, decided, you know, to pull a Deji and say, you know what, I had to see this, so we're gonna have everyone else see it too.
You know, okay. So, I will say this. I actually don't mind Ratchet's new armor. Yes, it's an obvious Master Chief follow the leader design, but I actually like it. My problem is more so with how this game diverges from the typical formula. Because remember, it's just Ratchet, not Ratchet and Clank, and the game means it. Ratchet will not be with you in gameplay, essentially, for this
Clank
game.
is busy in your mission control.
Clank, yeah.
Yeah, and I just checked.
There is still some platforming, as you can see, but it's a joke.
Hey, Dwebs, and we thought WWE's pay-per-views were a rip-off. But, yeah,
at least none of the wrestlers were unintentionally trying to scare us.
Yes, Pedro.
In the meantime, yes, the jump cuts in the Synthesis is not here in the PS2 version, and neither is Ratchet's glitchy face either. So yeah, this is all this remaster's doing.
What kind of emulation they were actually working with, I wonder?
No, they weren't. Well, this is a native port, technically. This is not emulation.
Well, still, I wonder what they were technically doing, because again, if, you know, I just don't know.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry for being obvious again, too. But honestly, after playing through some of Deck 9's later games, I can see that this has precedent. This is. They just have precedent with doing this. They're not very good coders, it seems.
Maybe, but I still, like I said, argue that the original trilogy was not really that bad in coding.
No. Obviously, compared to this, it was much better. But I can see that Deck 9's later work has precedent. That's what I'm basically saying.
Also, cute that the robots are rotating with you. Go on,
Anyway, in spite of our grumblings, the game at launch actually did well, got positive reception, and of course was a commercial success, 2.1 million copies by 2007. So, I guess I should say this. We are definitely looking at the worst version of the game, but okay, if we take out all the visual glitches and whatnot, would we at least say the game is good? I'd argue Probably, but I'm not going to shed a tear that they eventually went back to combining Ratchet.
I'm gonna
and
use a
Clank for
quote
later
that Deji
games.
normally doesn't like from what he told me, you know, but it's a good game on its own, but not necessarily a good Ratchet and Clank game.
Well, I'm glad
Pretty much.
Well, I'm glad at the very least, with the current state of the PlayStation Classics, we'll get the proper PS2 version of this instead, so that'll be nice.
Again,
From what I understand,
go on.
From what I understand, fans weren't the biggest fans.
Oh yeah, okay, there is this. Again, Ace Hardlight is the guy that is being pushed to be the marketable mascot of his entire thing, but apparently fans do not like him for some reason, as you're about to hear.
I think it's the John Cena effect where they're just sick of him being at the top all the time.
Straight from the presses of the gleaming Vox Media Empire. So tell me, why is it that I can't give this stuff away?
Well,
Don't answer that. Let me take a wild guess. It's because my fans can't stand Ace Hardlight! He's a pompous with the charisma of blogging nut cheese! So
Ace is voiced by Andres Oluzzo, by the way.
Wonder Boy. The little Billies and Susies of the world are spending 1 trillion bolts a day on worthless
So is
swag,
this a... Okay, that's the thing though, I can't even say it's a joke on John Cena because he is charismatic, so
Yeah, apparently,
joke
I guess the joke is that, you know, Ace Hardlight is, despite winning constantly, you know, he's technically lame to the kids. Again, it's the commentary for censoring on TV is clearly attempted here, but it's all over the place. But again, don't worry, this is just the beginning, because, like I said, the cutscenes are relatively minimal, and most of the game consists in just these combat arenas, so I hope you enjoy that, because that's what we're getting for 9 more parts after this. So see you for the next one.
Ahead.